Now, the topic is an interesting topic in the sense that I hope or I assume all of you have heard about the importance of talking in value terms instead of feature terms of benefit terms. Have you heard this idea, this concept before? Yes? Yes, everyone? Yes. Now, most of the time, the approach to this topic tends to be very strategic, very high level, very academic in some form. And what I'm trying to do is make it more real, practical, things that you can do straight away. And that's what we will try to focus on today. Given that there are very few of us, I think we can have a very good discussion on this. Some time back, I was interviewing someone for a position, and his only experience was having been an intern at some company. And so I asked him, what did you do? And he responded with, I was responsible for the alertness of the entire office. Well, that's, for a 19-year-old intern, that sounded good. So it sounded like a very high level of responsibility. So I asked him, what exactly did you do? And his primarily, it sounded like he did the coffee run to get coffee for everyone. So the question really is, what is the feature, what is the value, what is the benefit? So if you look at it that way, the feature was, I brought coffee. The benefit, it kept the office alert. What's the value?
Here.
You had an NPS score of whatever. And the reason for that was the low error rate that came from that alertness, that came from the coffee, right? And that's what I'm talking about in terms of how do you think about value relative to benefit or feature. Is it too bad? There's a restroom here if you want to get more, otherwise we can do it and take care of it later on. So what we will talk about is more on the tactical side, not so much on the strategic side of the vision, that kind of thing. We'll talk about things way more tactically. A little bit about me. I am the author of that book.
Here's one.
And I have been working for a long time now. My primary PM jobs comes from a fairly long stint I had at Yahoo. I co-founded a company which we exited in 2015. Currently, I'm the director of product management for digital marketing products at Walmart eCommerce. So that's me. Said that, I'd like to know a little bit about you.
So are you part of Voodoo then?
Voodoo is a part of Walmart, but no, I'm not a part of Voodoo.
So part of the internet?
Yes.
Online?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sit on the second floor, Voodoo sits on the first floor. So yeah, I work with the Voodoo folks for some aspects, but no, Voodoo is not a part of my division.
They've been trying to recruit me, so that's why
Oh, then we should
we'll
talk,
talk
let me know,
after,
and
yeah.
yes, I can make the pitch on their behalf. So I just want to understand a little bit about the group here. Any students? No? Product managers?
I was a product manager, now I'm a program manager.
Okay, that's okay. Engineers?
X.
Are you moving to product?
No, I already moved.
You already know.
Okay. So ex-engineers who are now in product management. Excellent, excellent. Designers? Others?
I'm an engineering program manager.
Program manager, okay.
Founder.
Cool, awesome, awesome. Good to sort of get a feel for that. Here's a recent update that.
And again, you're going to share the slides, so we don't have to take.
No, you don't have to take.
Okay, too explicit notes or take pictures.
No. I think that it distracts from listening. So please listen. So here's an update that someone sent. It says internally built ad server live. So this is the status update. XYZ team launched a new internally built ad server that serves ABC company's product retargeting ads on the preferred ad exchange. It has superior campaign efficiency and enhances UX by serving ads at less than 1 second compared to ad load times of 4 seconds when served by third-party solutions. It also enables millions of dollars in non-media cost savings. Reasonably good update, don't you think? No? Horrible? I mean, let's horrible update, reasonably good update, good, bad, ugly, good. Huh? Good, bad, ugly. Okay, so not bad, right? Okay, so your turn now. Some of you got a head start on this. So folks who came in earlier got a little head start. I did not give a sheet of paper. So I'll give you, how many minutes do you need? 3. And folks who are done, feel free to take a picture, tweet, write the other one if you wrote the first one. All good? Everyone done? A minute? Okay, I think all pens are down, so let's keep moving on. Hold on to it, and we'll come back and look at it later on. So, what does feature, benefit, value mean? How to think about it? So, in my mind, feature is about what is it. Benefit is about how does it improve the situation. And value is for the customer. Right? So, let's look at a specific example. So please do not call out, please write it down. Let's say that the feature is electric car. So we are talking about the electric car. What's the benefit? What's the value? Please write it down. Just do the electric car. We'll come to the Instant Pot later. Yeah. Cool. So what do we have as benefit for the electric car?
Carpooling.
Pardon?
Carpooling.
Excellent. Carpooling. Okay.
No carbon
No
emission.
No pollution.
Okay. Pollution.
Cost
Gas.
savings.
Cost savings.
I wrote it as a
It's a
value.
benefit or a value.
I wrote it as a value.
Still debating.
Okay. So let's talk about value now. What's the value?
Saving fuel.
Good for the environment.
Okay.
Value for the pollution.
Healthier, lower mortality rate.
Saves cost and time.
Saves fuel. Saves cost.
Pardon?
Saves fuel.
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 Okay. So let's say that I do not believe that non-electric vehicles cause pollution or pollution causes any problem of any form. So I make the assertion that pollution is not a problem, it doesn't exist, there is no global warming, there is no problem at all. You guys are just making it up. Therefore, I don't really care for your environmental whatever. It's not a value for me. Right? I am the richest man in the world. Money is of no object at all to me. So cost saving is not a value at all to me. It may be a value to you, but it's not a value to me. So the question about value is really about who are you? Value is to me, not to. Value is to the customer or the user, not to the provider. So when the provider is talking about something, that is your language of benefit. It's not necessarily the language of value that the customer perceives. So when we talk about value, we need to immediately ask the question, for whom? Because what is value for one person may not be value for someone else at all. Right? And that's the whole point about how to craft a benefit or a value benefit feature statement. Let's do the same thing for Instapot.
I had to actually look that up. It's a crock pot, Instapot.
No, it's not. I'll talk. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
I should
I'm
have
like-
asked a question.
I'm like,
Seema,
what
give
is
me a minute.
Instapot?
I'll come back. Instapot is not a
Not a
traditional crockpot.
Okay.
So thanks. I should have asked the question whether
I'm
you
like,
know what that
what
is.
the heck is an Insta? I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I should have explained that. So
I have 3 crock pots, so.
it's a fairly recent phenomenon. It's I think last year I work in the e-commerce space. Last year it was one of the astronomical growth cooking products that came out.
I-
Think of it as a
Price ranges from
Rice
$140 to $80. They vary depending on the size.
no, you get them for $50, $60.
$68 is the, was the price.
Well, okay, it's too small. But I'm looking, there's a bunch of different.
Fair enough, fair enough. So Instapot is a slow cooker, a pressure cooker. They call it 10-in-1 or something like that.
So it's pressure cooker and slow cooker.
Rice cooker.
It's everything.
Yogurt maker.
Yogurt maker,
You
exactly.
can make wine with it now.
All in one kind of thing.
Yes. The thing is, it has a timer on it,
Okay.
and you can basically schedule it. So think of it as a timer controlled, delayed start, slow cooking device. So, some use cases are if I want to cook meat that takes a long time to cook, I can put it in the pot today evening and say, start cooking at 4 tomorrow, and when I come home at 6:30, it's ready. You know, that's a use case. So how anyone else who has not used does not know what this is?
I know it is, but I never use it.
I have 3 crock pots, so I don't need
I
one.
thought it cooks faster than the crock pot too.
It can do either way. If you want it fast, you can do it fast.
So you were talking about being pressure cooker, so like a traditional pressure cooker, it doesn't explode. You guys, I mean, seriously, people have been really hurt by,
No.
like their
Yeah.
face will be taken off if the pressure cooker,
No,
yeah.
I mean, there's still risk of steam,
Yeah,
not as volatile as pressure cooker risk.
I've seen pictures on like Facebook of someone's like ceiling
Yeah.
from like seriously, like like a regular pressure cooker.
4
Anyway,
guys in Canada started a company. They worked for a long time. And this is for doing something else, some cloud. I don't know what they were doing. And as they were working on it, they pivoted to build this product, and this took off. So,
I guess I'm not that domesticated.
so anyway, benefit value. Anyway, before that, hang on. I'm going to go back one slide. Without doing this, without doing what we are doing, you will not find much value in the session. So if you can just take this and write down a line of update, then what we are doing will make sense. Cool. So benefit.
So variety of dishes in one pot.
Okay.
The ability to cook variety of dishes in one pot. So that's the benefit. The value is less time spent in dishwashing.
Okay.
So
Okay. So I am a chef. I have 23 people washing dishes for me. I don't care about the time it takes to wash dishes. Instapot is valueless.
for a chef, yes. This is
Yes.
more for the household.
So the
For
starting,
individual household.
yes,
It's saving time from that.
yes. So your first question should be, who are you? When I say benefit, right, it's fine for us to rattle off, time is a benefit, energy is a benefit, that is a benefit, this is a benefit. But as soon as we say value, the first question we should ask ourselves is, who are you? Value for whom? So for a housewife, the value is different. For a chef, the value can be different. For somebody else, the value can be different. So as soon as we come to the value question, if we do not ask the customer user question, you cannot make the value statement, because you do not know that person's language, which is what the last line talks about. The feature still is the same. What is it, right? Benefit still is the same. How is it good? But how is it good framed in the customer's language is the value. So when you talk about value, if you do not have a strong notion of customer, stating value becomes difficult. Right? Does that make sense?
So does that mean that not all benefits can be turned into a value for the target segment you might be talking about here?
Okay. Excellent question. That is an excellent question. Where that goes to is a lot of the other sessions that you may have attended today morning or other talks about target segment, talks about differentiation. This brings that back in the sense that if your benefit is X, and that X is not valued by the target segment, then you do not have product market fit. You will not be able to sell that benefit to this customer base or this target segment. So the point really is, not all benefits, someone else was making this point, Michael today morning, he was saying exactly this when he said that the screwdriver for that Nest thing is benefit and value, and oh, screwdriver is there and 4 panels, it's awesome. That's value for the early adopter. For the next guy, the guy who's across the chasm, there is no value in it. I don't care. I want somebody else to come and do it for me, right? So going back to the Instapot example, if you are a student, right, or you're fresh out of college and you are working somewhere, maybe you don't cook, right? You don't cook regularly. Instapot has no value. So saying that it is fast, you don't have to wash, it will cook whatever Indian food in 4 minutes, and it will cook meat in 4 hours. No meaning at all. I have no value for it. So value has to be in the customer context. We cannot talk about value without understanding the customer. That's the key point. The closer you are to the customer's language, the stronger you will be able to frame that value proposition.
It sounds similar to the positioning statement you learned in MBA schools about the value and the benefit. But in this question, should there be another aspect about getting this value, but I can get this value from someone else's competitor's product? Should there be any differentiation element to this, or this is just about getting the customer's attention that you have this pain point, I have this product, it has a benefit, it matches your value, but it does something more than something different?
So that is totally up to you, right? So you could say that, so again, going back to Michael's example, Michael gave great examples. Spotify is doing something, Apple Music is doing something, right? Totally your decision whether you want to go and build something in exactly that space and say that my value is exactly the same thing that Spotify does. Right? That is your problem, right? But you are not, it's not a positioning, you have failed on positioning, you have failed on differentiation, but your value statement is fine. Right? That's where I'm making that distinction. Cool. In the next few slides, what I want to do is, I want to propose a few steps, 9 actually, that will help us in crafting this statement, the value statement better. Right? And what I want to do is the example that I used before. Take that and let's sort of look at it a little more carefully, a little more minutely. So the first question that I want us to ask ourselves is, what is it talking about? So in this case, it's talking about the internally built ad server, very clear. It's there in the title, it's there in the rest of the body, right? So that's good. The next step is, if there is a resultant improvement, who will enjoy it? That takes you straight to the customer problem, the customer question that I was talking about earlier. Who is the customer? Who is the user? And in this statement, if you look at the left-hand side, I've reproduced that. There is an implication of customer because it says enhances UI, but there is no real mention of customer anywhere in that sentence. There is an implication of the company because it talks about efficiency, but there is no mention of that class, right? So going back to my point about, does the statement really talk about the customer or the user? So that's step 2. So what I'm saying is, at the end of this workshop, I want to propose 9 steps, and I want to basically say that if you answer these questions, then put that back together, you will have your value statement. The next one is, okay, if we agree that it's the customer and the company that's going to have the resultant improvement, how would the customer measure the improvement? It's not you measuring the improvement. So in this case, there is some measure that is thrown in there, less than 1 second, 4 seconds, blah, blah, blah. Now that is not a measure of the improvement, it is a measure of the feature. So, question to ask ourselves is, if there is a resultant improvement, how would the customer measure it, measure that improvement, right? So examples could be incremental revenue, incremental net promoter score, CTR, it could be anything, right? But the question really is, how will he measure it, not how will you measure it? What is the expected number against that measure, or what is the measured value of that? Right? And again, if you look at the left-hand side, there is nothing there. Then you could make a claim, something like it's going to earn us $500,000 or $1 million, right? The question then becomes, is that believable? How do you prove that, or how do you substantiate that improvement? And there, what that translates to is, why is there a resultant improvement? So that's step 5. So in this example, it's good. It says enhances UX, improves campaign efficiency. So those are all hard things, meaning they are not subjective as much as they are. You will have a yes/no answer to those. A few softer things. One is the tone active or passive? If you see from a pure English standpoint, a lot of usage is passive. Step 7, are there too many adjectives? Typically, when people are using too many adjectives, it means that there are, the point tends to be a little weak, therefore you need more adjectives to prop it up. Lastly, any update has to, or any node where you're talking about value has to come from a perspective of you are the delivering person, you are the person who owns that, right? So it should sound and feel like you. You are not there, but someone is receiving it in your absence. So the closer it is to who you are, the better, right? So in this example, internally built is, people who know me will know that I would not use that phraseology, right? So last one, anything that you think is missing. That's really the 9 steps that I have to any update that is a value statement that you want to make, either for your product, for your team, for your status update, whatever it is, for your resume. And this is what I have as a rewrite of that original update. So I'm saying launched an in-house ad server to serve ABC companies' product retargeting ads on the preferred ad exchange. Ad campaigns now have 3x higher CTR due to reduced load times of 1 second compared to previous load times of 4 seconds, resulting in better campaign efficiency and customer experience. The initiative will also save 3.5 million in cost. The point here is not the specifics of that, and I'm sure that we can improve it even further, right? But the point is the notion of customer and how is the customer going to measure it, and how is he going to find that value is the point I'm making. So what I'd like you to do is go back to your sentence, whatever you wrote originally, relook at it, and see whether there are changes you want to, have you identified the customer? Have you identified what is it that you're talking about? Have you identified what's the resultant improvement? Have you identified how it will measure? Are those things already there in your update? 3 minutes, go through it and see if it makes sense. more time? Okay, I think everybody's been, a couple of more minutes, sure. Okay, then now I'm going to ask for volunteers. Anyone who felt that they made okay, let's start with people, someone who felt that they made a lot of changes to what they wrote originally. Anyone? You made a lot of changes? If you don't mind, can you read the original statement and the final one?
Yeah, the original was just launched a product within the deadline. So that was the original one. This is for the CEO, so we just met the deadline. But later I changed it because the product was launched last 2 weeks back, and I made it like this. Launch product XYZ for price point of some numbers. Product which is loaded with all the apps, and it is the active enrollments for the product is some numbers which is within 1 week of launch, which is 3 times better than the previous products in the same lines.
Cool, cool. Thank you, thank you. So, thoughts from anyone?
Specific detail?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, I think that it depends on your audience, right? In this case, it's an internal audience. The CEO already knows what the product is, right? Hopefully the CEO knows who the customer is. Hopefully the CEO knows what you're doing. So in this case, the customer for that update, right, has knowledge, and you're making some assumptions, which is perfectly fine, right? You have to know your audience. So in that context, I think yes, it had the notion of what he would be interested in. So he would be interested in, is it ramping up the way I want it to ramp up, or I hope it will, is it, are customers engaging with it, right? Both of which were metrics that you sort of covered. You said something about it's doing better than previous products in the first 3 weeks or whatever it was, and you said something about the price point or something like that.
In price point, maybe CEO would know actually it's a mid-range when we decided.
Right. Sure.
But the apps, sometimes CEOs won't know that we loaded with all the apps of the previous products, and also within that time.
Sure.
The enrollments.
Cool. Any other volunteers? I mean, we are good on time, so I'm going to pull a lot of you to volunteer.
I can go. My first was users have embraced our unique selling proposition of smart branching. So we are preferred version control software.
Okay.
And now they have hundreds of them, but no easy way to manage them. We have removed that hurdle, and the result is a faster adoption of this feature.
That
was the original.
That's the original version.
Yeah. So second, I just drew the bullet. I didn't combine them together, but I was talking about we have enhanced the usability of our Streams platform for large customers with lots of project teams and policies, and that will improve the productivity of the developers by 5 times by reducing the time it takes to identify and filter specific branches from 6 seconds to 2 seconds, the number. And I didn't get to the last thing. two questions.
Oh, you didn't get to the last two questions, okay. Actually, that was what I was going to suggest, right? So it depends on context, right? If you are writing a value statement for your product package, right? You work for Apple and you are doing an ad for Apple, right? And you may want 5 words there, right? That's what you may want, because that's what the product package value statement is there everywhere. It's in an ad, it's in your status report, it's everywhere, right? So it depends on where you're writing and what context you're writing it in, right? I gave this specific example because all of us write status reports. All of us write resumes. That's why I took this as the base for this workshop. My point that I was going to make is the last 2 points is really about say what you want to say in as few words as possible. Delete 3 words doesn't really mean 3 words. Add 3 words doesn't really mean add 3 words. My point is, do you need to be this verbose? Can you say the same thing in this many words? CEO will love it, right? He anyway doesn't have time. Half the time he doesn't read your mail anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to join us, but we are sort of at the fag and yeah, please. Yeah. So that was the thought that was running through my mind. The other point I wanted to make is you used some word like lot of something. I don't know the specifics of your product, but there are lots of branches in my GitHub that right, something like that. See that lot, right? It goes to that adjective point. You're using it as a crutch. It's like saying etc. So yeah. Now, if you cannot say that previously there were, per project there were 17 branches and today there are 23. If that's a good thing, you don't have to say it. Just leave it. Cool. Anything else on his update? Anything caught anybody's attention? No? Any other volunteers?
Sure. I didn't change mine much, I just added a little bit. So this is to a employer, I guess, future employer. I helped a client increase sales by 400% through my product marketing planning with strategies tailored specifically for that company. I was gonna say for that client, but I just changed it to company because leaving the gender thing out. So that's, yeah.
That was the final version. What was the original?
What's that?
What was the
Well, I
original?
added with strategies tailored to specifically for that company, the last part. I just added that. Instead of ending it at product marketing planning, I added the last part.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, I think that works. Again, resumes are always a
I guess you could make it longer, but I've always thought that shorter is.
Yeah.
And then if you're having an interaction with somebody, then you can add to that. If they seem interested, if they don't see, if there's a glaze over their eyes, then you just move on, right?
Right. So what?
Resume,
Go ahead.
yeah, in resume also maybe.
Not
add-
resume, this is a live, like a
Like
PSR,
PSR,
like a problem
yes.
solution result thing you're telling to somebody.
But
Yeah.
did you add by something? What was the specific? Because I didn't know whether I heard the adjectives for what you did. Means what were the specific traits you used?
You mean the strategy?
Strategies.
So, well, there were several things, but one of them is it was a nanotechnology glass company, and I got them placed into Sunset Magazine and Popular Science, and they do a house every 6 months, and I got them placed into that house as part of her branding strategy for the company. And going even further into that, she was well known in the glass industry with kind of home builders, but not architects and commercial building, and that was the target market that we were going for, and that succeeded that in getting that increase for her. Yeah.
So that was actually what she is sort of going, the direction that she's going in was the direction that I was also going to talk to. It's perfectly fine, but the one, you could always consider how many proof points do you want to provide, right? So your proof point here is very broad. I did some strategy work, I did some other activities that made sales go up or whatever was the primary metrics that
And
you
there
were
was
pointing out.
there was more strategies to that, but it depends on
Right.
how long of a conversation. And also it depends on what kind of, like if it's
Yeah.
the CEO of a company you're trying to impress or
Exactly.
the marketing.
That's the customer, exactly the point. Who are you selling that to? Awesome.
If it's the chief marketing officer or the, who you're talking to, it depends, yeah.
So I'm not going to force all of you to volunteer, but think about it at your level. In general, did you feel that there was an improvement to your original statement? The after was better than before. Generally, did you get a feel for it? Cool. And what do you think is the reason for that? If there is one tag that you will take, that this is why my after is better than my before, what's it that you would say?
Yeah, actually, I have done this exercise for resumes, and I was looking for a similar pattern for the products also, and I think the flow of that is clearly put up. So this is what the benefit we got with this. So what we got out of it and how we did it in a short form. So I was looking for some recipe for writing such good statements, and I thought I found it.
So, like Michael said, when a consultant says, do you think, he means the answer is yes. When presenters ask this question, they want you to say what they said earlier. I want you to say customer. So really if there is one thing that I want you to take away, that's the thing. You think about the customer for whatever you're doing, right? If the customer can be CEO, the customer can be your manager, the customer can be external guy, the customer can be your channel partner, whoever the customer user is. Think about that guy or that lady, and then think, what is the language that person speaks, and speak in that language. That will give you the value. That's the one thing that I really want you to take away. I know this is something that you would have heard many times, and people would have said it very quickly in the first slide and moved on to 25 other slides. I wanted to spend time on it because I feel that folks on my team, for example, right, they will often come with updates that are, yes, we launched a feature. Oh, right. So that's what I hope we all take. Go ahead.
I think this was really helpful, and I'm also wondering for stakeholders, like when I create, let's say, a roadmap, and I have to come up with the features, and I try to adhere to some sort of a value proposition. And when I talk to the sales guy, and when I talk to the marketing guy, I always have to figure out how to do that. But in the day-to-day work, do you envision product managers maintaining different versions of value propositions when they have to talk to? I have a presentation. Sometimes I have to build different versions of the same presentation.
So two answers to that. You are right. Unfortunately, sometimes that needs to happen. But if you can anchor it to the customer, if you can show the marketing guy and the sales guy that, look, I am talking about the customer, disagree with me and tell me that the customer doesn't value this, that we can have a discussion. Because both of them finally have the same PSU, they have the same stocks that you have, and you should all have the same objective, right? So if you can say that, look, our customer will value this based on my understanding of what the customer is. Correct me if that is not the case. The same presentation should work for both of them. Right?
Yeah.
Because, I think.
No, then that's absolutely true, and that's what I've been trying to do, especially when I bring the customer's name in. Instead of saying, I believe, you can say the customer of this thing believes. That makes the conversation.
Right. Then both of you are addressing the problem on behalf of the customer. Instead of you telling the marketing guy and the marketing guy doing that, right? So that's my only suggestion for that. In the real world, there are a lot of other problems also. Companies may not be metrics oriented, or engineering may not be. So I'm not saying that there is a silver bullet here. I'm simply saying that let's do our part in pushing the envelope on this. You had a question.
Yeah, so I think you explained very well, how to craft a value statement and thinking about it from the perspective of the customer. That's very clear. And what I'm still trying to figure out is why would even benefit matter? Like, you can can always jump from a feature to a value. Like, how is benefit state in this framework is even getting used? Or why would you ever want to look at the benefit and then drive into the value?
Good question. One reason for that is the real world where you cannot state the value. So many times in the real world, it is actually difficult to say what the value is. She launched her product 3 weeks back. You don't know whether it is tanking or it is it is going up, right? So all you can say is I'm running a test, right? So that's one reason why you need benefit statements, so that you can say that it will do faster, it will have better UX, it will have better this, better that. So benefit, so two things. As soon as you translate benefit to the customer's language, it will become value, right? So it is a stepping stone in that direction. Just because you say that I now have ability to branch in my Git something, that's a feature, right? If you don't have value statement, then, and you don't have a benefit statement also, all I know is there is a feature. So when you talk to the SVP of the company or the CEO of the company, he looks at a laundry list of features and he doesn't know what to make of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add to it a little bit more?
Yes, please.
I think it actually is a good point, because when I talk, my customer is the same customer. When I go present these values to the customer, but depending on who I'm talking to, sometimes I talk to system administrators, and sometimes I talk to the end user developers. My feature is about being able to view multiple branches. But when I talk to the administrators, I talk about the ease of configuration of that particular feature. That's one benefit. Like in here in the electric car, you have CO2 emissions, no need to fill out gas. I believe those are the benefits. You can target them to different value proposition for different customers, but within the customer also, depending on the audience, when I talk to the CFO, I try to, not all the time I can make it, I try to make it about how much money it's going to save by reducing the productivity, or how much server space it's going to save. So that, I think, helps with having the benefit list presented. And I think it goes well.
That was essentially where I was going.
It is, so in short, what I got was just, as you're transitioning into crafting that value, benefit is the first step towards getting it.
Yes, yes. If you look at the two examples we did, electric car and that cooking pot thing, we got the benefits pretty easily, didn't we? I mean, there were a few that we could have debated about, but that was not the thrust of what I was trying to get across, so I didn't feel that was where I wanted to spend time. But my point is, generally people think benefit, because benefit is close to them. That they are saying that, right? Value is more difficult because we have to sit in the other person's shoe, think of the other person's, what is the other person valuing, and talk in that language. So benefit tends to be generally easier. I am almost done. 1 more minute, 2 more. Was this useful? Because no one did X, Y, Z, or maybe one more. I'll assume that this was. So if you don't mind, I'd like to get the sheets that you wrote in and permission to use that. If you think that I should not use that in a future session like this, then don't give me back this sheet. Or if there is confidential company information where you have said the name of your company and the name of your product, please don't, it's fine. Right? If it is okay for me to use, just leave it here, that would be great. If you got a picture or something, you blog, you tweet, whatever, please feel to send it out. Some contact information is there. These guys wanted us to do the survey. If possible, please do the survey. Give feedback there, or directly give me feedback. If you want to connect with me, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll leave you with this question. What did you do today? If someone asks you a question, your significant other, somebody asks you, what did you do today? What will you say? If you say, I attended a workshop, I attended Product Camp, that's a feature. If you say, I added tools to my toolkit, that's a benefit. If you say, I figured out a way to get my next raise, move to the next level network, that's the value. Thank you, guys.